Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining the show with us today. Today is a very, very special episode, and I really do mean that because not only is it me talking to you all, but we've also got the man with the plan, the video editor extraordinaire, and an alumni of the show, Dan Howard.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me back. It's been a while.
I was going to say, well, when was it? It was like a few months ago?
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks. Something about that.
Some of that. So yeah, and not only is it about Dan's beautiful face and very important beard, but we've also got a special announcement because Dan is the editor and has been working with me to the release of the book Less Design Combat, which is the level design series. And I said Dan was the editor for it, so we've just been celebrating, having a little catch up for it. So cheers, brother. And mine definitely looks more masculine. My drink it brings out my eyes. But no, we're just super excited. And I kind of decided with the fact that when this episode releases is when the book releases, I thought it'd be a nice one for both myself and Dan to talk about kind of our experience, because this is the first book we've ever done together and kind of been a process. And by no means was it just Dan and me on this book. We had others. Jay, who was the artist for the book, Alex, who also did the graphic design in terms of the layout, making it look pretty as well. So, but I just got me and Dan to talk today because we've been friends since, how long have we been friends for?
What year is it?
Year
2020 now.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, 15 years, 16 years?
Yeah, so not that either of us is clearly keeping count. So.
After like 5, it's just, it's history now.
That's it. Alexander Hamilton history at this point, right?
That's it. Founding fathers.
Friendship. So yeah, now I just wanted to do one for us just to talk about the book and the process of it and, that kind of idea of it. And, just we're both super excited that the book is finally out. I've been working on the book probably for like 7 months. Dan, you came on for about 4 months of that as well.
Yeah, that's about right.
So, we've been working on it for a while. It's taken time and care, obviously, but it's been one that, we hope that you all do enjoy for it. And we'll kind of just go into it. So it's not just a one-off book. It's going to be a level design series. The series is going to be called Let's Design. Dan was the one who came up with a crafty little name there for it. So this one, though, is primarily focused on that of combat. And that was kind of a big one for us, just because I found that when looking for myself, because I wasn't particularly great, and I wanted to improve on my combat design in my levels. And as gamers, as we both know, Dan, combat, especially for AAA, is very prevalent in games, not only just games, films too. And it's something that I thought, well, if I'm struggling to figure this out and how to get better, then maybe others are too. And we kind of went from there, really, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, 100%. I think it was quite early on when I came on. You actually made a really good point to me, which was that combat is very often overlooked. When you look at YouTube tutorials, if you look at essays, if you look at sort of how-to books, and your sort of level design books that you go through at uni and you recommended reading and things like that, combat doesn't feature too heavily. And it's not something that I had really thought about. But as soon as you said it, because I follow a few sort of gaming YouTube channels and things like that, I did notice that actually, yeah, there is a distinct lack of content for that kind of area.
No, I mean, that's it. And I think it's one of those, because me and Dan went to the same uni together, different courses. But I think the other thing that we focused and spoke about very early into it as well was, especially with books done by professionals in their industry, because no matter what field you're learning about, there's a lot that goes into those crafts. And what you find tends to happen too is the fact that people try to overcramp the book with a huge amount of information. So you get, these thick books, and especially if you're a student these days, there's a lot to consume. So that's another thing that we focused on, is we wanted it to be more of a series than a one book, so it could give each element a chance to breathe and focus on.
Yeah, there was definitely that aspect of, and again, we spoke about this a lot right at the start. A lot of the books you get a recommended reading are almost over-engineered.
Mm.
You know, they are so dense with their kind of walls of text, and they're so clinically informative that they then fail to entertain. And I do
Yeah.
think it's the entertainment prospect that allows someone to retain the information. And obviously that's kind of the tone and general feel that we wanted to go for with this series.
Yeah, no, and that's it as well as, and Dan's role as the editor was, I think a challenging one, because he's heard me speak for over 16 years and knows by all means I'm not the most eloquent with the word, but I think it was something where, because as I mentioned, not only has Dan been on this show multiple times with me, but Dan is now also the video editor of the podcast and bringing all the good stuff. And if you have been watching our YouTube recently, you'll notice the standard of it has only gotten better because of Dan. That Dan was trying to make sure that obviously my sentences made sense. It was a fun to read. But not only that, was making sure that we kept that tone and style of making it read as if you were listening to an episode of the podcast itself. And then maybe you want to explain how you thought and went about that, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely a sort of shorthand to understanding how you speak and your kind of speech pattern and how you would go from A to B. And it was sort of a delicate balancing act with rewriting your prose to go not too informal, not too formal, maintain consistency as sounding like your voice, and also not wanting to reword so much that the technical aspects got lost in translation. Because ultimately, I'm not a student of game design. I obviously came up through TV and film, and whilst I am very, very interested in games and have some experience in that kind of field, I'm not au fait with every element that went into the book. So, yeah, I think there was obviously a great deal of experience that I was able to draw from with just editing the podcast, because a lot of what you were saying in the book, I have heard very similar phrases through the podcast. So it was sort of lifted from here and taken from there to kind of form a coherent through the book.
Yeah, but I think that was also one of the reasons that it's important to have Dan, because although Dan may not be, as you said, a student of game design, that was the other thing we need to make sure that it read well for someone who may not be that student. If it's your first book, for example, picking it up, you need to sound entertaining, need to be, something that you could get the gist of. And that, I think, was definitely one of the challenges too.
Yeah, that's definitely a perspective that I wanted to bring to it, because ultimately this series is ideally going to be something that a first time could pick up and a seasoned veteran could pick up, and ultimately still come away with the same kind of knowledge base. And so it was useful for me because I was obviously learning throughout the process, and if there was ever a term used that I didn't understand, I could then define it or reword it in a way that I would understand. But equally, any technical aspect that I did understand, I knew that a beginner would understand. It allowed us to trim the fat. We weren't having to explain every technical term that went in.
Yeah.
We could just kind of pick and choose the more obscure ones.
Yeah, no, that's it. And for us, like I said, we really wanted to be. One of the big inspirations for us was the fact that there's things that we wish. Obviously, graduating uni, there's always something you learn where you're like, man, I wish I knew this or was taught this at university. That's not a dig at any universities. There's always just something you want to know more about, and that was always something. So this to us was that moment too. Was us trying to figure out, making sure that hopefully you who are reading it, obviously like you said, we've got it where if you're even in the industry now, you can still learn from it, but especially for students, that they can still have a a step up, especially above myself. Like that's what I wanted. I wish there's stuff that I knew when I left university before, and I could have grown quicker because of it. So that's always why we're doing stuff like the podcast, articles, the book. So hopefully you can grow quicker than myself in that. So it's always the aim.
And that was a big part of it, wasn't it? There was a large portion of after getting that first draft done where we would go back and say, oh, actually, we need to expand on this. We need to add this point. We need to make this a double page spread, because there was that element of there's more we can say here.
Yeah, that's it. And, for those, we'll give it a little sneaky peek. For those who haven't seen, I'll pick one of my favorites here. Drum roll for suspense. But as you see is, we really did, I don't know how well this, tell me how well the camera's picking it up, Dan.
That's beautiful.
But yeah, no, we wanted to focus on that, where some of these, the word here, these text boxes on the side aren't, as Dan mentioned, some of them will vary in size because we know that some concepts need to be expanded upon, as well as having these beautiful diagrams, which we mentioned Jay did as well. And I could be a hand model after doing this for sure. But, that's what we also wanted to. We knew that the challenge was, not only was it the fact that we wanted to make it readable from any kind of experience range, but also the fact that, we're going to have a diagram too to help show this. So sometimes there's things written down we don't need to necessarily write, because the diagram is going to show it even better than what a written word could too. And, that was a big one. And just speaking for myself, I love the 101 Things Learned series, architecture, school, urban planning, marketing. They're the three I've bought. And I loved that. I love what they did. And another thing I noticed with other level design books, I don't know if you've noticed it with film books, Dan, but there's always a lot of screenshots from other works, obviously to highlight it's used in professionalism, which is perfect. But I find when it's that, they're often printed black and white too, and it kind of loses that value. So we just thought, moving with it, let's just highlight it. Let's just keep it bare bones, make it look like it's in an editor as well, that anyone who's worked in software that's related to games or films can recognize it right away. And that, it's our images. You could literally look at that and then recreate that in any game engine, and it just be, helpful and easier to understand in a sense, if you know what I mean, mate.
Yeah, 100%. There's a massive props to the design team on that one. I think the way the book looks, it's so much more engaging than any film textbook that I had during my course, because you hit the nail on the head. They are all black and white. They are all walls of text with some kind of still from a production, and it doesn't really engage you. And yeah, it's one of those things that you don't really notice it, because that is just the standardized way the textbooks are, and you don't notice it until something else does it the way that you've done it with this one.
Yeah, mate. And that's the thing, I'm not saying we've revolutionized the book game, Dan. We're about to make millions. Get ready to pay us. You're about to see loads of people copy this style, because hopefully they won't, because it's our series and I'm coming for you legally. But no, it's one where, again, we just, a lot of thought has gone into it. It's not always, it's hard to always get across everything you want, there's been review copies already sent out, and I'll tell you, there's something that people haven't noticed, and we spoke about this beforehand. I mean, the color theory that's gone into this too, right? Originally, for those of you who don't know, the color was going to be blue for this, and not that blue was bad. It looks nice in blue, but with the fact that it's combat, the color theory behind combat, anger, rage is that of red. So we thought about that. And then all these different chapters, the blue is just because it's, again, contents and conclusion, but you see it change. It goes yellow to orange to red, showing, again, that elevation in kind of as if you were getting closer towards combat. All these little details have really gone in to the look of the book, whether it's been us trying to nail down the language we use to make it seem more conversational, because not only is this, this book is not the hard rule set. That's not how, levels games are made, by making hard rules. It's by being guidelines. So we want it to be a conversational tone to keep it like that. We didn't want it to be like every game has to follow these rules, because that's not how it works.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting journey, and thinking about how much went in to making it sound so off the cuff.
Yeah.
We were very economical with our choice of words. We had a very hard word limit on every chapter. So every single word in that book has been painstakingly chosen. And we went through so many iterations to finally nail down the wording that has gone to print. And hopefully you don't even notice it. And that sounds odd, but that is ultimately what an editor should do. An editor should come in and no one should notice that they've done their job.
Yeah.
Because it should just sound natural.
Yeah. And, Dan talks about the painstaking there, but especially for us, so, the process for anyone who might want to write a book later, just to help break it down. But as you said, there was a team of 4 of us that overall made this book, which is quite big when you think about for a book. And the reason that was because of the fact you have myself, who's the author, Dan is the editor. We then have Jay, who's the artist that made the great, beautiful diagrams, and Alex, who created the overall look. Again, we chatted with him. We came with the idea, and Alex took those ideas we discussed and brought them to life on the pages perfectly. And when you think about that, you don't necessarily think about how much goes into it. But as you're saying with the word choice, we hired a proofreader. It's obviously just go through our work just to make sure, again, it all seemed correct. And it was that moment where we were going through their work, and we were just deciding, because there's some words we spent like 5 or 10 minutes just debating which word actually worked better in terms of the structure of the sentence. And you don't realize until you're actually in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like I say, we did have a very strict word count. So if we could find a way to say with one word what was otherwise written with 5, we would absolutely say that, because that then allowed us to expand on a later point. It then allowed us to throw in some examples in some of the chapters. Yeah, it's like I say, you wouldn't necessarily think about it, because hopefully we have given a product that does sound well, or does feel as if Max is just saying it to you.
Yeah. And that's it. And, the review copies have gone out, or so to say, the press copies. We've got, not only is this episode launching with myself and Dan, we've got interviews with myself on the leveldesign.org website, as well as on the student podcast with Ross Baxter as well. So there's going to be a few places that you can find more information about the overall process, and I guess, kind of how we came together and thought about it. But it's just one where, like I said, I want a bit more of a laid back conversation with Dan for it. And I guess my question with you, man, was, I guess, is there anything that I guess surprised you on when working on this book then, mate?
I think what surprised me was how much we would go through it, how much we would agonize over every chapter. Obviously, initially, you sent me what to me looked like a finished product, and you sent it to me to basically just go over it, make sure dot the I's, cross the T's. But if you look at that original document now, it's completely different to the one we finished with. And I'm not saying that's because of me. I know my head doesn't need to be any bigger. All right. But it's just, we went back and forth. And originally the deadline was a lot sooner than the deadline it ended up being, just because we both discussed that ultimately it wasn't at a place that we were 100% fulfilled that we'd done what we could do.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what's stood out for me. I've always written all my own stuff, and never, I had been my own editor, and I would just edit as I go and, condense and rewrite and things like that. So I don't think I noticed that I'm doing it on my own because that's just a conversation in my own head. Whereas saying it out loud and, meeting, twice a week, 3 times a week to actually physically say out loud, right, I'm not happy with this, or we now need to say this, or that's 10 words too long, so how can you change it? And it was those moments where we'd condensed and condensed and condensed, and we'd condensed 160 words into 80 words, but then you still had to condense even more. And it was, that's kind of what surprised me. But we got there.
No, we did. We did a phenomenal job. Dan's copy will be sent to him. He's got an e-copy because you can buy this e-book and physical. But, I'm sending over Dan one later. So don't worry. People think I mistreat you, Dan. But I don't. I don't let them believe it. But no, I think for me, mate, so again, me and Dan have been friends since year 10. So we would have been about 14, 15 when we first met. Not only that, we went to university together. We share a room together. Still, my favorite.
Very intimate.
Yeah, my favorite memory was the way we set up the room. Was made it look like we were in a relationship. The amount of people that came into our room, like, are you two dating? It's just like, no. To one day I come home and Dan's like, right, we're moving the beds around.
We're not doing this anymore.
There was just
too close.
It was too much of a random sink placement for us for some reason. We messed up the function.
It was a weird room, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a weird room.
Yeah, man. Some fun times though, especially because I'm more of a morning person. Dan's more nocturnal. That was always.
Absolutely.
I think I scared you.
It was like the least perfect pairing, wasn't it?
It was always a funny one because I think I scared you with not scared you, but I was like having some weird sleep dream or something like that, and like I was, I know Dan was like, "What the heck is going on?"
I'm just trying to work, man.
Yeah, just chill, bro. My favorite one was where Dan had come in with some of his classmates because they were talking about what they're going to film in our room, and I just come out of a shower, and I remember just walking in, and I was like, hey, everyone.
Damn. There's a meeting in progress.
I don't think I ever tensed so much in my life. Being like, so, how's it going?
Check it out. I just walk around like this.
Shred City. Different time, people. I'm fat now. Get over it, okay? I see the comments. But no, but like, I think for me, mate, as I said, I've never been a prolific writer or anything like that, and nor was it a goal of mine to be an author. And I think to see it come through doing the podcast has been great, like to the point where, you've taken the video side and pushed that forward is amazing. And how now it's a book, if anyone's looking for an editor, check out Dan. Honestly, he's great. He made this as well with me. And to say that, like right now we're celebrating the book, we are very happy, but this is just the start for us. And I think that's also another exciting period, I believe.
It's definitely a very exciting prospect.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, we are going to, and I've said this on one of the interviews already, so it's by no means secret. The next book is going to be about traversal exploration. We're going to start writing that in November is the plan, and hopefully release that Q1 of 2021 is that. As for book 3, we haven't decided the topic on that one yet. I know we've got some ideas still, but we're still, we've got book 2 to write before we even think about book 3. But that's, again, it's another exciting prospect for us. And for all of you who do pick up, whether it be the physical or the ebook, we are hoping that you do enjoy this, because we're not here just talk about like, the amount of detail I've got into it. We put in the detail because we want you to all, after reading this book, be able to feel that you've learned something from it. And that's our goal with the book.
Yeah, 100%. Like it needs to entertain. It needs to be informative. And it's very much something that we try to keep at the forefront of our minds. Like always look at this with, the audience's eye or the reader's eye, and try and think, well, actually, if I'd bought this, if I'd paid, my hard-earned money for this, would I be happy? And I won't often say I'm proud of something that I've done because I think as as the artist, you are too close to it and you can see every flaw to such a microscopic detail that the average person isn't going to see anyway.
Yeah.
But I can say that actually I'm very proud of how this turned out. When you sent me the proofs the other day, before you even received your actual print, I was like, yeah, this looks good. I think it's very professional. I think the design team did a cracking job. I think it looks really nice, and it, not to kind of blow our own trumpet, but I do think it looks a cut above your standard textbook.
Yeah.
And hopefully it reads as something completely different. Like it's not a lecture as such as it is a conversation.
Yeah, man. No, that's it. And, that's like we say, that's what we're hoping for. It's when this comes out, guys, because it releases on Tuesday, there's not only this episode, but the book. I'm going to keep doing this every time I mention it. It comes out then, and that's, that's the exciting part. And also we had, people like, man, it is never more intimidating than when you give, because we gave early copies of this, as I said, me and Dan went through this, but even while we're going through this, we were giving this to, other LDs, previous ones from Naughty Dog, from CD Projekt, Ubisoft, Machine Games, Sumo Digital, Hangar 13, we got in contact with a lot of LDs as well. This wasn't just, let's quickly see, we got feedback, from other authors on similar subjects as this, who came back with great feedback as well. And that was a big thing. Like I was saying, we didn't just stop. We had others look over this, which was nerve-wracking, and we've got great quotes for the book because of the fact it came out so well. And, the one thing I'll say that, you talk about being so close to the project, I still go through, because we spent a little bit of time in terms of figuring out the right order for the book as well. That was something that we did. And I'll tell you what, there's still things where I'm like, should have
been later. Should have been earlier.
I won't let anyone know, but overall, it still flows well. But yeah, man, there's a lot that's gone into this book.
Yeah, it's definitely opened my eyes to actually what goes into a publication like this. It's like I say, I've never written a book before. My kind of bread and butter was always in sort of scripts. But you look at a book and you see a name on the cover and you think, right, that person has sat at a desk, has churned out 50,000 words, and it's gone to a publisher. But actually, it's been 4 months of my life. It's been 7 months of your life, and then obviously there's Alex and Jay as well. So no, it is enlightening to kind of see what goes into it.
Yeah, man. And I know people are probably expecting explosions of joy and everything, and we are very happy. I just wanted to release it as more casual talk because, like I said, you're going to see interviews with myself about this book, talking by people we've given early copies to, so they can ask questions, so we can talk more. But this one, like I said, is just more about us having to talk about the process because it has been a while. I didn't think it would take this long, especially when it was October. Was it October when I came up with the idea to write a book? And then I think it was about mid-November, I spoke with Jay, and that's kind of the direction we went. And then, like I said, it was probably March time when you came on to the project.
Yeah.
So,
It was, yeah, March.
So, yeah, it's a whole process, people. And, also I think this is a great thing in terms of time, because we self-published the book, everything as well. This is why I want to say a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters as well, because if it wasn't for their backing, not only would we not be, for me, if people's thinking I'm splurging this out on, I was going to make some bad jokes, but they're very, let's not put myself in the fire there. But
I don't know, yeah, you've got some pretty nice houseplants behind you. I'm just saying, that's some fancy foliage right there.
It's, it's all Patreon money straight into the foliage. But no, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been able to afford Dan, not only for doing the video edit, the podcast. We've got Alexander who does the editing for the audio side of the podcast. But that freed up my time to then go off and make this book, and gave me some more freedom. And because of that, not only the Patreon money but money from work as well came into funding this. You know, I paid for 4 people essentially with this, and as much as I'd say, yeah, and now I'm going to get a Ferrari out of that. We know this ain't J.K. Rowling money here, but we did this because we want it to be an amazing one. So thank you to all the Patreons who helped in a way to fund this book. You know, we cannot say thank you enough for all that you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it really makes a huge difference. And being able to plan the next book, you know, and you know, book 3, book 4, you know, make it a potential series, and just do everything else. Like if someone had said to me back in January that I would be able to actually edit, you know, what I would consider to be a fairly well-established YouTube channel, you know, and actually get paid to do so, I'd be like, "Nah, you're crazy." But you know, I'm just really over the moon that I'm along for the ride. So
yeah, well, now, man, you're part of the team. So again, we'll wrap this one up here, guys, before we get teary-eyed and sentimental. But no, like it's. But thank you all. Like we said, the book is now out and available. Let's Design Combat. It is going to be on all stores such as Amazon. But if you do want to really help us out, the best place to get it would either be the ebook from Gumroad, which is gumroad.com/Level Design Lobby. Not only can you pick up the ebook, but there'll be other little items you could possibly get that might interest you too. And not only that, if you want to get the physical and hardback copy, you'll probably get it before Dan, but you'll be able to get that on the Lulu bookstore. The reason I recommend this instead of, say, stuff like Amazon is more due to the fact because more of the money will actually come back to us. And as we said, we want to make this a series, and that money won't just go on my foliage, but it will actually go back into the series of the book. As we said, we want to release book 2 come early next year, and then maybe even end 2021, or it'll be start of 2022 when we release the 3rd book and kind of go from there. So because of the fact, again, that it's a series and it's more of a condensed book, by no means is this the Lord of the Rings, but we said we want to get these out, try turn this into a 6 months to a year, get one out every 6 months or every year, just because of the fact that we know the process now. Me and Dan understand what it is we need to do, what's the structure, how early people should get involved. And, we understand it much, much better now.
Yeah, it's definitely been a learning curve. We've definitely streamlined the process. We could be a bit more efficient, a bit more ecological with how we're going forward. And, it might not be Lord of the Rings, but I think there's a certain charm to a condensed version. It makes it easier to reference. Like one of the biggest problems I had with a lot of my textbooks were they were about this thick.
Yeah.
And it's like a needle in a haystack. You want to find one bit of information and it's a nightmare. Whereas at least this way, you flip to page 20 and you're there.
Yeah. So. And that's it. And with the fact like it'll be a series, the books you get here will be, focused on a topic. And the best bit about this is these books you can pick up and read at any point. You don't necessarily have to read it from start to finish. You can come back, flip through, go through as much or whatever page you want, whenever you want. And like I said, we've got a few in the works. So again, we'll wrap this one up because, we're going to finish these beers together and have a good old chat afterwards. But again, just thank you so much for all of you that listen to our podcast. We appreciate you so much. And to all the patrons, we cannot say thank you enough. We'll raise our glasses to everyone and just say thank you very much, everyone. So take it easy. We'll catch you all next time.